Well, hello again, and just been having a look around at some of the usual channels on YouTube that I peruse from time to time, more for a giggle than anything else. And I see that Ben Emlyn Jones has been thoroughly enjoying his anal probe. Sorry, I'll read that again. Has been thoroughly enjoying his annual probe appearance, and I had a quick flick through that video, and his presentation lasts an hour and the video is 5 hours long, so the other 4 hours must be him travelling there and back on the bus. I had a very quick flick through his presentation, and usual sort of stuff you expect to see from Ben Emlyn Jones. You know, free energy is real, you know, how he could improve the world. There was some other stuff thrown in there as well. Nothing worthy of comment, really. Apart from the fact that he did say that it seems to be the attendance seems to be getting weaker and weaker every year. So that at least is something. You know, people are cottoning on to the fact that they're spending money on a lot of rubbish. Now, I had a look at the Miles Johnston channel. You know, Miles is always good for a laugh. And I just had a very quick look. I should have recorded it when I actually saw it, but I don't have a lot of time as usual, and I flicked through a couple of his videos and I can't find it. But buoyed by his success, e-begging success to get his shed roof and his car repaired, you know, got a few grand in from the people that were gullible enough to send him some money from his e-begging campaign. He thought, well, that worked okay. I got my shed roof fixed, and I got my car fixed. So now he's gone from e-begging for a couple of grand to e-begging for 24 million quid. Now, when I saw that, I fell about laughing. I really did. And I just can't find the clip where it's a shame that I just didn't get the camera out at that point and just record Miles Johnston saying, you know, e-begging for 24 million quid, because that was priceless. It was worth more than 24 million quid. But I think he may very well have taken that down, and he's taken down the other video where he was e-begging to get his shed roof fixed. He's left a thank you video there, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, maybe you could post a link to those videos below, maybe with some timestamps if you're that interested, of him saying that he wants 24 million quid, and I'll include it in another video maybe. But he wants to bring you an hour per day news program on all this stuff. And I thought, well, for a start, there is nothing going on. Some of the examples he gives are the old favourite, the black goo. I suspect that may be something to do with the fact that I pointed out fairly recently that my black goo video had over 45,000 views. What else did he say? Oh yeah, RAF Machrihanish. Secret aircraft are being flown in and out of RAF Machrihanish. Now, RAF Machrihanish, of course, is a decommissioned RAF base. I might leave a link to it below. You can look at it yourself. I might even show it on Google Earth. But it's decommissioned, and it was sold for £1 to the local shire or the local Chamber of Commerce, something like that, to develop it as a light industrial area. And there were a lot of small businesses operating from there. Not the sort of place you'd be operating a top secret space plane or aircraft of any type, well, a secret aircraft of any type. I don't know if the runway still operates there. I think it might, actually. It might be a local airport as well. So the very last place you'll be operating secret aircraft from. And he's talking about this veritable alien invasion in Ireland. Aliens everywhere. And then he said, oh, there was a guy that saw an alien. It's gone from aliens to alien. I've actually seen this story. A guy saw a skinny guy standing at the side of the road, thought he must be an alien. He's so skinny. That's what I call news. Okay. All right. Well, this is not much of not a long video. This I think I'll just leave a link to RAF Machrihanish below, and you can look at it yourself. I won't show you on Google Earth. But something else that I saw on the Miles Johnston channel that I thought was quite amusing was this alarmist 5G nonsense he's put up recently. I think the best thing I can do actually is just end this clip here, and we'll go over to we'll end this short video with a clip from something Miles Johnston considers news. He wants 24 million quid so he can bring this sort of stuff into your home 24 hours a day in super, high fidelity sound and good quality colour. None of which is required, of course, just to get a point across on YouTube. As usual, it's just all unsubstantiated nonsense. So let's just go over to the next clip, and only runs for a few minutes, and we'll end the video there. Well, we've seen Miles Johnston going from e-begging for a few grand to fix his shed roof in his car to e-begging for 24 million quid. So he can set up an outside broadcast unit and he can bring you exciting news. Exciting news like this. This is on the Miles Johnston channel. This is some 5G alarmist nonsense, sort of thing that Miles Johnston would call news, presumably. I would suggest that this is just absolute nonsense. I don't quite know what the agenda of these guys is, but I had a quick look at this, and excuse me, there's a bit in there where one of the guys puts a thing up on the board, and he says, "Here we go." Now I can't remember if it's this guy that actually makes them or if it's another company, but there's a 5G BioShield, a USB 5G BioShield. So you can just plug it into your laptop USB port, or whatever device you've got that's got a USB port on it, and that will completely protect you from this deadly 5G radiation. Well, they've got to say something, haven't they? Because once the 5G is rolled out over the next year or two, all that's going to happen is that people will get better data rates on their mobile devices. None of this apocalyptic nonsense is going to happen, and they're going to have an answer for that, aren't they? And the answer is going to be, well, we've actually managed to neutralise a lot of it with stuff that we make. You can buy personal protection devices from us. Personally, I think I'll be saving my money, but let's just have a quick look and listen at this.
Who flew in this morning from Switzerland, and he's been conducting some clinical trials on a technology which is able to remediate 5G. There is a glimmer of hope on the horizon.
So there you go. So what you do is you generate a problem, a significant problem, and then you generate a countermeasure for it. The problem doesn't exist, of course. So they have to try and convince as many people as possible that 5G is deadly, it's dangerous. Fortunately, they're going to be able to sell you something that will protect you from it. Who would have picked that, eh? Now, this guy here, I'd never heard of this particular chap, and I Googled him. He's got some sort of retreat in Bali, I think it is. And it shows him sort of surrounded by... it looks like a very... I should have got a picture of it, actually, but a very sort of hippie, new age type scenario where he's sitting there and there's a circle of young women around him. Yeah, I think he might be changing his MO slightly, though, with the new laws that are about to be introduced in in Indonesia. Some new try before you buy laws. Anyway, it's all this new age bloody rubbish, basically. This guy here, he's apparently he's a cousin of a Tory MP who declined to comment on his cousin's activities, because he's the executive officer of a company that's just bought a 4,000 acre property in Sierra Leone, and they're going to be growing cannabis for medicinal purposes, of course. Yes, this guy's a chemist, and there's another guy there that looks like some sort of African chief. You know, you will see in a second. But I googled him, and again, it doesn't seem to be very much to that. He's described as a paramount chief. Well, you know, what's a paramount chief? Most of the sort of stuff that the other fellas involved with is this sort of spiritual, new age nonsense. And Mark Steele's on the panel as well. Of course, we know all about Mark Steele. For some reason, he keeps peddling this, it's a battlefield technology script that he's got. He's come up with an answer, though, where, because I've suggested in the past, people, if they go along to these presentations, why they just don't ask him if he's going to move. Say, well, if your lampposts around your house are trying to kill you, Mr. Steele, why don't you just move? And he says, oh, well, if you know what you're doing, you can neutralise the 5G. I know what I'm doing. I can't do a Geordie accent, but yeah, it's rubbish. Absolute nonsense. Okay, well, let's just have a quick listen to this.
There are actually two extant technologies that we are aware of, and we've been conferring for some time
That sounds good, doesn't it? What's an extant technology, I wonder?
now, and investigating what the options might be for humankind as we tiptoe further and further toward this perilous ledge, which 2019, 2020, 2021...
Now, if I was in the audience, I'd be asking him if he's got a mobile phone on him.
as promised, will augur the onset of 5G and Skynet.
Now, we'll augur the introduction of 5G and Skynet. Now, he's using the word Skynet, of course, because almost everybody on the face of the earth has seen the Terminator movies, and people will think, oh, God, Skynet, the rise of the machines, we're all doomed. That's why he's using that term. If you look at, you're not going to find the term Skynet anywhere else.
With hundreds of thousands of satellites in the sky, all sending down signals, ensuring the weaponization of street lamps and LED light bulbs.
Oh, dear me. So, first of all, an LED light is not a light bulb. They are not bulbs. And hundreds of thousands of satellites beaming this stuff down. Yes, okay. Well, he offers no evidence for this, of course. Space launches have to be planned years in advance. Who is making all these weapon satellites, these 5G weaponized satellites? They're going to send beams down to your lamppost, so your lampposts are going to be attacking you. So he offers no evidence for any companies producing these satellites. SpaceX making the launch vehicles. Are the launches scheduled for these hundreds of thousands of satellites? Where's the evidence for that? Who's making the satellites? Hughes Corporation, Raytheon, any of these people? Any evidence to show that these things are being built? They offer no evidence for any of this stuff. This is absolute bloody rubbish. Nonsense. And of course they know it's nonsense. I don't know whether they're just up there because it makes them feel good, to sit in front of an audience. Some nice oak panelling in the background, pinstripe jacket there, the centrepiece there, centre speaker there. Or is it about generating money by selling devices that will neutralise this deadly 5G radiation? What is the agenda of these people? Now, what you've got to bear in mind, of course, is that lots of television satellites around, and they're beaming signals down over huge areas of the surface of the Earth. And the transmitters in those are 50 watts. They're 50-watt travelling wave tube amplifiers, typically. To give a decent amount of effective radiating power from the antennas, of course, but they're so far away that you wouldn't be able to. The energy hitting you or hitting the surface of the Earth is not going to be of any. It would be impossible for it to damage you. No people keeling over all around the world. Where these, especially in Europe, where you've got the higher power satellites, I don't know if they're still there actually, the Astra satellites, very powerful signal from the Astra satellites. people aren't keeling over from radiation. It's all microwave radiation, of course, from television satellites. Most of it's Ku band. I think it's about 14 gigahertz, I think, something like that. And they talk about no one's falling over and keeling over and getting cancer from satellite television signals, are they? There'll be no difference. In fact, the mobile phone signals, if there's any 5G signals from space, and I don't know if there's any plans for that, but certainly there are sat phones now. There's the Iridium system, but if there's a similar system that has 5G transponders on it, they're not going to be in a position to hurt you or your pets or anything else. So what are these people going to be saying, in 2 or 3 years' time when nothing has happened? Yes, well, fortunately we've managed to neutralise. There's the neighbours complaining or agreeing with me. Can't tell which really. Right, now, I don't know what those things are actually, flying around here. It could be anything. All right, well, that's so there's no evidence whatsoever of hundreds of thousands of satellites. They're certainly not going to be they're not going to be weaponising lampposts. This is just absolute bloody rubbish.
And God knows what else. So Jacques Bauer is a scientist, a researcher, an environmentalist, a biohazard expert. And to that end, we greatly welcome him. Please say thank you to Jacques and show him a warm welcome, having come all the way.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's enough of that, really. I'm not going to make a long video about this thing. Suffice to say that they talk about 5G being the same frequencies as the battlefield weapon. Well, there's a thing called the active denial system that the Americans have got. It's not really. It's more for crowd dispersal than battlefield technology. Operates at 95 gigahertz and about a power of 100 kilowatts. They go on to talk about phones operating in the 2.4 gigahertz range, nowhere near it. Even if they go up to 40 or 50 gigahertz, still nowhere near it. Certainly nowhere near the power levels. You cannot draw a comparison between 5G and battlefield weapons. It is not going to be capable of looking around inside your house. It's all nonsense. Be interesting to see how many of these people. It'd be good if someone could catch some of these people in private once the 5G is rolled out, and find out what their mobile phone number is, and get an acquaintance just to give them a call. So they pull the phone out of the pocket, because these people love to feel important. They'll do that. They'll just take, while you're talking to you, they'll just take the phone out of their pocket and answer the call. And then you can say, well, is that a 5G? Is that a 5G phone you've got there, Mr. What's this guy's name? Sasha something or other, or Mr. Steele? Yeah. Don't worry about 5G. There is no apocalypse coming. I don't know where these people get their ideas from. It's all twaddle. But it's obviously what Mr. Johnston calls news. So if you think you need to chip in some money and support this kind of news being brought to you, and of course this can be done with a cheap and cheerful camera anyway. If you really want to watch this bloody rubbish, someone could go along. I could go along with this camera I'm using at the moment, which is a Panasonic thing. Cost me about $600, I think. It's got perfectly adequate sound, perfectly adequate picture quality. For getting a message across on YouTube, you don't need professional production facilities. You don't need an outside broadcast van. You don't need any of that bloody rubbish. It's all nonsense. All right, well, let's. I think I'll leave this one here. This is just a quick look at what a couple of our favourite conspiracy people have been up to recently. I haven't looked at Richard Dolan for ages. I don't know what Dolan's been up to, but you got Linda Moulton Howe and Kerry Cassidy spruiking the normal kind of nonsense. Someone said to me the other day, oh no, it was Lady Lakshmi left a comment saying I could get heaps of subscribers if I just start doing videos on super soldiers and Captain Mark Richards and there was another thing there that I really can't remember. But I really wouldn't waste my time, to be perfectly honest. Super soldiers, of course, no such thing. No one's fighting the forces of evil in the astral. It's drivel. Captain Mark Richards, no such thing, of course. Guy that's been in jail for a very long time for murdering somebody. Is just feeding the gullible with a lot of science fiction nonsense. I wouldn't waste my time on them, those people, any more than I would waste my time on people like Corey Good or David Wilcock and co. Wilcock and Bull. So there we go. A quick look at a couple of conspiracy theorists. I've looked at this 5G thing before, did a video about it before. These people don't know what they're measuring, they don't know what they're looking at. And let's see what these people have to say in 2 or 3 years' time, when 5G is rolled out and nothing has happened. So, oh, actually, no, we were wrong. We meant 6G. Yeah, 5G's fine. 6G, it's a weapon, battlefield technology. It's a weapon system. It's going to kill us all. And you might ask yourself what exactly would be the point of that. It's a recurring theme with Miles Johnston, that we're all going to be killed and replaced with cyborgs. Yeah, well, what would actually be the point of that? Cyborgs in an aircraft being flown around by another cyborg to do what? Not going to be many cyborgs in retail, is there? Because you're not going to need to go and buy. Cyborgs aren't going to need to go and buy food. They're not going to need to go to a supermarket. So you're not going to need cyborgs behind the counters. 0% of the cyborg population are going to be generating a taxable income to support the government. It's ludicrous drivel, and that's being over complimentary. And this is from another video. I'll leave links to both of these videos below. More ludicrous nonsense, of course. Create a problem, then sell everybody your remedy to the problem, and then when no one suffers any ill effects, you can say, well, yeah, there you go, our technology's working, when in fact there was no problem in the first place. Yeah, okay. This is one of the more high-profile 5G piffle peddlers, Mark Steele, and he's going to show us a lamppost light controller.
That's a capacitor, 10 volts. See, 10V. This thing here, it's another manufacturer's piece of hardware on top of a light. That's a 3,300 watt relay. 3,300 watt relay. That's big on your kettle. Why all that power? Why would you want all that power on the top of the street light? These are LEDs, I thought they were lower power.
Yeah, what he doesn't tell you, of course, or what he doesn't realise, possibly, is that they're not going to buy control modules, for low power applications and high power applications with regard to street lighting. They'd have too many different types of spares to have to keep, so they're going to look at their street lighting and they're going to say, okay, we want control modules for the street lighting. What's the most amount of power that's drawn by any street light? And they'll say, okay, well, some of these old ones, they've got sodium lamps in them, they've got whatever in them, so they're going to put a couple of thousand watts or 1,500 watts or whatever. So they're going to put a relay in there that's got plenty of headroom for one of those lights. 3,300 watt relay sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But mains voltage in England is 240 volts. So, 4 amps. 4 amps is about 1,000 watts, isn't it? So you're talking about a 15 amp relay. So 4 times 240. You can work that out. If it was 4 times 250, it'd be 1,000, wouldn't it? So you're saying 3,300 watts. So it's I could have got a calculator and worked that out actually, but it's not. It's not much of a relay. Really, you can see by the physical size of it. It's quite small. So no mystery there. Got a 3,300 watt relay. It's going to have headroom because these things are turned on and off every day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's going to be a bit of headroom in there so the contacts don't arc, and you won't have to go around replacing them all that frequently. No mystery there. Okay.
Somebody trying to tell me that.
So they're going to buy one street light control module or telemetry module, and they'll use it on all of the street lights, whether they're low power LED lights, whether they're high power sodium lights. So they only need to keep one particular light controller in the store as spares. Type of controller. They can just go to the store, get one out. They know it's going to be the right one. They don't have to say, well, is it this one, this one, this one, or this one for the different power lampposts.
But they're going to save a few bob on electric, and they've got equipment that uses quite a bit. I mean, quite a bit. Well, I'm going to tell you why. This is the really unbelievable bit that I still can't believe, by the way. I wake up in the middle of the night, think I'm having a dream. That there looks like a teardrop.
This is the antenna for the. This is the antenna. Presumably he's talking about this. It's just a stain on the board. It's not going to be anything. But these printed circuit board antennas, very low power telemetry devices. These cannot take any kind of power. You'd probably be 1 watt at the absolute maximum of radio frequency energy you could put into something like this. It's probably milliwatts. So all this directed energy, phased array stuff is absolute nonsense. Steele is either lying, or he's got no idea what he's looking at and he really believes what he's saying. Either way, it's nonsense. Printed circuit antennas, it's not a phased array, and it can't take anything in the way of power. Certainly if you put 3,000 watts 3,000 watts of microwave energy into this would just disappear in a cloud of smoke. It's nonsense.
It's what's called a dielectric lens. Dew drop. Direct energy weapon. What it does, it focuses the microwave radiation. This bit is the scanner. So that target acquires the bit, target.
Yeah, now what you've got to bear in mind too is that Miles Johnston put this on his channel. Now, Miles Johnston tells us he's a broadcast engineer, and he's dabbled with pirate radio in the past. I saw a video where he was talking about the his 1,000,000 watt. It seems to go up every time he talks about it. It was 1,000,000 watt, and then it was a 1.2 megawatt FM radio station. And Miles Johnston did use a phased array for his radio station, and it's considerably larger than that. And he says it's a 1,000,000 watt radio station, and all this sort of stuff, but it's probably only a 5,000 watt transmitter. But it's using a huge phased array of antennas to give him a narrow beam it gives him an effective radiated power of 1,000,000 watts. He did actually say what the gain figure of the phased array was. I could calculate his transmitter power if I could be bothered, but it won't be much. It'll probably be 5 kilowatts. Now, if Miles Johnston knows enough about radio to be able to do that sort of thing, he will know enough about radio to know that Steele is talking rubbish. He's talking absolute nonsense. So why does Miles Johnston air this stuff? What's his agenda? What is the agenda of these people? What Steele is saying is absolute rubbish. Does Steele know it's rubbish? He just likes presenting this sort of thing in front of a crowd? What's his agenda here? If he believes if he believes this, what he's saying is real, he really shouldn't be doing it, because it's the blind leading the blind. A lot of people will be led down the garden path by this bloody nonsense. And he mentioned just after this, there's a 450 volt capacitor on that board. On this board here, it's on top of the lamppost. On here, it's got a 450 volt capacitor. Well, you got there's a main supply, 240 volt main supply, feeding the lamppost. So if you've got any filtering in there, to stop any spikes and rubbish getting back on the mains lead that might radiate a bit of rubbish off the mains leads, you're going to have capacitors in there with which are rated at higher than the mains voltage. Because you always, whenever you do something like this, and especially when you've got something that's going to have power applied to it 24 hours a day, forever, you engineer in lots of headroom, you know. So if you've got a 240 volt supply or 240 volt relay in there, you're going to have a 450 volt capacitor in there. It's got plenty of headroom. It's not running right on the edge. You wouldn't put a 240 volt capacitor in there. So Miles Johnston would know that. Why doesn't he pull steel up on some of this bloody nonsense?
And that is the shooty bit. It's the bit that Wheeler, in his presentation, he said some scientists have come up with this fantastic piece of equipment that can actually fire and shoot signals, higher densely collimated signals. All sounds quite interesting. Well, Jews...
Yeah, but that's not what... that's not what you're looking at there. You'd be looking at a fairly substantial piece of equipment, not an antenna printed onto a printed circuit board. Hang on, let's just see, does he say anything else relating to this thing? Or is he going back to his... Yeah. Let me just freeze that. But this is what he's talking about here. Now, anybody that knows anything about this sort of stuff will know there is nothing on this board. Nothing on this board is capable of generating a significant amount of energy, a microwave frequency. You know, if it's got a 4G or a 5G transponder on it for controlling the lights and reporting the condition of the lights back to the council's HQ, whatever you want to call it, it's going to have a very small output power. This thing, you know, it's not going to be chucking out watts, let alone hundreds of watts or thousands of watts. It's certainly not going to be doing any kind of biological damage to anyone or anything. Remember, the higher in frequency you go, the less penetrating power the signal has. So if 5G is using microwave frequencies that are above the frequencies that are being used by 4G, it's actually less harmful for you than 4G because it has less penetrating power. It certainly can't peer. The sort of frequencies Steele's talking about can't look through walls. You know. None of these are power devices. None of them. You know, you might get 100 milliwatts out of something like that, maybe. It'd be interesting to actually see the circuit diagram and that thing, the specifications for it. But I'm sure that that's what it would say. Anyway, I've. Oh, okay, that's quite appropriate, isn't it? Yeah. Leaf nut, yeah, leaf nut node, yeah, okay, street light, 250 volts, 450 volts, high voltage board, 3,300 watt relay, normal 3G, 4.3, 4G communication boards are fully capable. There you go. So is that saying that these boards at the moment are using 3G and 4G, so this is not even a 5G device? And I think at one point you might even say this is a 850 meg printed circuit board antenna. Nothing whatsoever to do with 5G, nothing whatsoever to do with microwave. 850 megs, not even a microwave frequency. Microwaves start at 1000 megahertz or 1 gigahertz in the radio world, regardless of what you may read on Wikipedia. And there's a relay. You can see how small the relay is compared with his hand. You know, power relays will be as big as a brick, and there are some relays that are really huge, of course. You know, for switching significant amounts of power. This is nothing. This is just a very small device. Certainly there's nothing on that board that's going to be generating thousands of watts of microwave energy, or hundreds of watts of microwave energy, or even tens of watts of microwave energy. If it's running on 850 megs, it's not generating any microwave energy. So, you know, it might be 1 watt output. More likely it's going to be half a watt, something like that. So there we go. That's just a bit more on this this 5G apocalypse. I think that's what they call this today. I'll leave a link to this below, so that you know, and the previous video as well, so you know, it might come in useful if you're suffering from insomnia, possibly. That'll be about as useful as these videos get. All right, well, it's about as much of this absolute drivel as I can stand. So, as always, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.